How's everyone doing today? It's your boy JJ Domination, and today we have an interesting video to talk about. So, we're going to be talking about a team that has yet to get a win in the NFL season, and it's not even about the Miami Dolphins because I've already made a video discussing the Miami Dolphins. This is about the 0-5 Washington Redskins, who will be facing the Miami Dolphins this week in the Tank Bowl. So the loser of this game just, furthers their or increases their chances of getting the number one overall pick. We're here to talk about the Redskins, man. Why are they 0-5 and why things aren't looking so bright for them in their future? So let's just go ahead and start off with a little bit of a recap from free agency because, that's kind of where all of the the madness didn't start with free agency. The madness started when you realize who the GM and the owner of the team is. That's where it really starts. But in terms of this season, let's just go down the list of things that led to the firing of Jay Gruden and led to this team being 0-5. Let's just start with free agency. So in free agency, their cap situation wasn't necessarily the greatest, but they were able to make a couple of decent releases here and there, and they basically gave all of their money to Landon Collins. Now, to bring in Landon Collins, they had to release Zach Brown and Stacey McGee. They brought in Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie as well from the New York Giants on basically a one-year deal. Has he played? I don't really know, nor do I care. And I actually watched the games, and I honestly can't even tell you if he's played, which is probably a bad thing. Landon Collins, though, the big free agent, the Redskins didn't have that much money, and yet they dished out a big bag for Landon Collins. That's because the cap hit this season isn't really that big. Next season and the season after that is when it starts to exponentially increase. So Landon Collins, if you've heard my thoughts on Landon Collins before, it basically goes something like this. He's overrated, but he's not necessarily a bad player. He's a fine player to have as your starting safety, but don't expect him to be some sort of superstar. That's basically my thoughts on Landon Collins. I think he's overrated. I think people really just look at the fact that he went to Alabama and he had one good season with the Giants, and people just kind of run with it. And to be honest, he's really not all that good. I mean, let's just face it, he's basically a poor man's Keanu Neal, if you want to compare the games. So, yeah, have fun with that. They made a trade to bring in Case Keenum. Alex Smith was, basically going to miss next season, and he was, at the time, you were basically going to be entering in the season with Colt McCoy as your quarterback. So you're like, okay, well, they go out, they get a veteran, they're going to be like a bridge team. They're just going to keep themselves afloat until Alex Smith can come back and hopefully play for another season or two. And then the draft comes. And honestly, I thought on paper Washington had a very good draft. Surprisingly, because we know the history of this organization. They make a couple of good picks on paper, but they don't always tend to pan out, like Josh Dotson, RG3. But RG3 is a different circumstance. He just, injuries kind of derailed his career, whereas Josh Dotson had all of the physical traits to be a great wide receiver, but he just never quite put it all together. So in this draft, they had 2 first-round picks. They actually traded up later in the first round with the Indianapolis Colts to make another selection. But before we get there, let's talk about what they did at number 15 overall. So at number 15 overall, they decided to go with Dwayne Haskins. Yeah, Dwayne Haskins they went with at number 15 overall, a one-year starter at Ohio State. Now, the one-year starting thing is more of a fun fact. It's not really a shot at Dwayne Haskins at all. He was actually a really good prospect coming out. In my opinion, quarterback number 2, I had him behind Kyler Murray. Some people had him ahead of Kyler Murray. That's fine. I'm not necessarily going to disagree, because when you look at the college tape or whatever and you rank the prospects, you're going based off of what you've seen from the player. You can't really project what a player is going to do in the NFL. It's more of, okay, based on what we've seen, this is what we think of him. And I thought he was the second best quarterback on film. It's not a knock towards any of the other guys that are doing well that were drafted after him. This is basically me telling you, based on what I've seen from Haskins in college, I think he is the second best quarterback in the class. not a knock towards guys like Daniel Jones or the great Gardner Minshew. It's just based on what I saw in film. It has nothing to do with either guy not being as high as Haskins for me. Yeah, so they drafted a quarterback. And keep in mind, like a month prior or 6 weeks prior, they just traded for Case Keenum. So you're thinking, okay, I like what Washington's doing here. They addressed their immediate future, and now they're starting to look a little long term. That's what you're thinking. Okay, well, we traded for Keenum. Keenum's contract's off the book after this year. Dwayne Haskins can sit for a year, learn the Jay Gruden offense, and things will be okay. You know, things will be fine. Washington has a future. Even if we're not that good this year, we can go like 7-9, at least be competitive within the division, and, you know, just stay afloat. That's how you're looking at it initially. And then with another first-round pick, you go out and you draft Montez Sweat, who just keeps slipping down the board and slipping. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that he had a heart condition, not as severe as the one that Maurice Hurst had, but, you know, something that you want to monitor. And, you know, to be completely honest with you, Montez Sweat, in terms of a college prospect coming into the NFL, looked very good. But me personally, I was a little bit higher on some other guys, because if you look at how Montez Sweat, you know, got some of his sacks, it really wasn't like convincing. Like, yeah, he got the sacks. You can look at the fact that he led the SEC in sacks and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a really good stat. But watching film goes a long way. You know what I'm saying? And that's something I tell people all the time. I'm no expert, okay? I'm no expert, but I'd like to think I'm pretty good at breaking down film and predicting some things. You know, like this year I've been pretty good with game predictions, which, to be honest with you, like 2 years ago when I tried to predict games, I barely got 50% right. So the fact that I'm getting 10 or 11 per week, it's pretty damn good. Pat on the back for me. And then, you know, later on, like in the second round, I don't even remember half of their draft. I know, let me just hit on some of the highlight picks. So in the third round, they ended up drafting Terry McLaurin, who was a former college teammate of Dwayne Haskins, and it was a position of need, which is at the wide receiver position. Let's see, in the fourth round, I think, or maybe the fifth round, they drafted Ross, I cannot pronounce his last name, a center from Alabama who's like good depth right now behind Chase Rolling. And then in the seventh round, they got Calvin Harmon. So I'm sorry if I forgot some of the names of some of the players for this team. It wasn't intentional, but, you know, basically when you take a look at their draft on paper, like based on how you evaluate the college guys, they actually had a pretty solid draft. You know, not the best draft, but, you know, about top 10 in terms of the class. So you're thinking, okay, well, Washington's drafting for the future. At least for right now, they'll be able to stay afloat and be borderline competitive, at least make things interesting in the division. So you're like, okay, you know, things are going well. You know, you sign Matt Ioannidis to a multi-year extension. Okay, you know, things are going good there. You know, you got Reuben Foster. Even though you moved on from Zach Brown, it's like, hey, you know, you got a young linebacker that you basically got for free because he was dealing with his own situation and whatnot. And then you get to the regular season, and this is where things start to turn for the Washington Redskins. So here they are at the regular season. They're playing game one, and they're up 20-0 against the Philadelphia Eagles, against a division rival, a team that a lot of people, including myself, believed could be the you know, like best team in the division or whatever. And, you know, Washington's putting up a hell of a fight. They're doing exactly what we would expect a team like Washington to do, and that's at least keep things interesting, be competitive. But then the more you watch to this team, the more you realize maybe they're worse than what we anticipated. Philadelphia went on to win the game 31-26. I mean, 31-6 down the stretch. Starting in the middle of the third quarter all the way to the end of the game. I mean, Philadelphia basically just turned up the intensity times 11, and Washington couldn't handle it. And then, you know, another week goes by, and another week goes by. All of a sudden, you're playing the Bears in your home stadium, and all of a sudden, you know, there are more pro-Bears chants in your stadium than there are pro-Redskins chants. And here you are, you're playing Case Keenum, and some people are like, okay, where's Dwayne Haskins? You know, when's he gonna hop in? When's he gonna play? And then the fourth week of the season comes, and Keenum is playing the he's playing the New York Giants, another division rival. So here you are, 0-3, you're entering the fourth week of the season, and here you are, you know, you're playing, you know, actually, here, let me scratch that. I'm sorry, I'm like missing details. So you've played the Philadelphia Eagles, you've played the Dallas Cowboys and the Chicago Bears. That's a tough stretch of games, okay? You going 0-3 is completely understandable. I mean, we're not going to knock you too much for it. But you have an opportunity here against an inferior New York Giants team, who, yes, they're coming off a huge win against Tampa Bay, and they have Daniel Jones in there, but you would like to think Washington is just the better team. They have the better defense. You know, the offense, you can make an argument that the Redskins are a safer offense out there. I mean, things just got really interesting in this game. So Case Keenum threw, I believe, 2 interceptions in this game. Maybe one. He had a terrible game, and I think he had reported with like a walking boot on his ankle, and he was questionable, and he got the play. And then they threw Dwayne Haskins in. So it's like, okay, well, Haskins is going to get a shot against a team that really isn't that good, but hey, he'll get some confidence, he'll get some early reps. He completely shits the bed. He throws 3 interceptions. He didn't really get that many yards, and to be honest, outside of maybe 2 good throws, Haskins didn't really look or play that well. He didn't pass the eye test for me and a lot of people when he played the New York Giants. And you can argue that he got thrown into a bad situation. Absolutely, he did kind of get thrown to the wolves, but the Giants, literally everyone has abused the Giants in the passing game. Jameis Winston abused him in the passing game. Josh Allen abused him in the passing game. Dak Prescott abused him in the passing game. And who did they just recently play? Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins abused him in the passing game. But you couldn't at least not have thrown 3 picks? I mean, come on, man. That's just a lame-ass excuse. Come on. You weren't ready to play. Just call it like it is. And now you have Haskins up here doing the prototypical, I hate losing. Well, no shit. So does every human being walking the earth. Who gets up in the morning and just says, you know what? I really love losing. Who says that? Who has that frame of mind? You know, do you think you're the only person on planet Earth that, you know, doesn't like losing? Come on, Dwayne Haskins, get better. You know, cut the shit. You're not ready to play. And obviously, it showed in that game against the New York Giants. And it's not necessarily his fault. I mean, he isn't really getting any first-team reps. Case Keenum and Colt McCoy got more first-team reps than Haskins did. And going into the season, it wasn't really even a quarterback battle. It was just like, okay, well, Keenum is it for now. Okay, yeah, Keenum's totally going to be the QB1 of this team. So Haskins doesn't get any reps with the first team, so I can understand why he struggled. But at the same time, I mean, come on, dude. Come on. I mean, that's your first impression to the league, 3 interceptions, and all of them weren't on him. About 1 or 2 of them were. There was one that was completely on Vernon Davis. But it's like, come on, dude. Come on, do better. And then we get into this past week against the New England Patriots. This is the breaking point. Haskins doesn't even get to work out with the starting lineup. He doesn't get to work out with the ones. Colt McCoy does, while Case Keenum's in a walking boot. Colt McCoy gets to work out with the starting lineup and not Dwayne Haskins. And then you hear the report. Jay Gruden did not want the front office to draft Dwayne Haskins. Now, I don't really know the exact reason why Jay Gruden got fired, but we'll get to that in just a moment. The fact that your head coach didn't even want you to draft a guy and you did it anyway. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's up to you on who you want to draft. But the fact that basically the coach just wasn't feeling that draft selection, wasn't a big fan of that draft selection, and thought that you could have went in a different direction, I mean, that's telling, because the coach's job is to basically have him in the system or in the offense and get him to learn and grow and develop. And basically he was just saying, yeah, I didn't want him. I didn't even think about it. Didn't even want him. And yeah, it's unfortunate. That's also the reality of the situation. Jay Gruden wasn't really feeling the pick. Probably wasn't the best fit for his offense, and I get it. You know, I'm not going to sit here and argue with the coach on that. I mean, if you're not a fit, you're not a fit. You can't just force things to work. That's just not how football works. Anybody that knows the game of football knows you can't just plug in anyone to the system and make it work unless you're the New England Patriots. That's it. And then there's a video that surfaces about Jay Gruden, you know, basically smoking weed and partying with like some college chicks or whatever. Now, I don't know the exact reason why Jay Gruden gets fired, okay? Because he gets fired on Monday. The NFL world calls it Black Monday. When you have a shitty performance and the feel of the NFL world is, okay, time's up. They call that Black Monday. That basically means you're getting fired, like the next day, no question. Jay Gruden gets fired. Now, you can make an argument for why Jay Gruden got fired. There's like 3 legitimate answers. Answer A, it's probably because of how he felt about the Dwayne Haskins selection, basically not being a believer, unlike the organization. Answer B could be his 0-5 performance. Answer C could be the leaked video and how it's just not a good look for the organization. And to be honest, I don't really know why the organization would care about that, because they're the same organization that cut DJ Swearinger for like voicing his opinion, and they picked up Reuben Foster during his trial. So like, why do the Redskins care about the look of their organization? It's not like they haven't shit the bed as an organization. It's not like they haven't made a bunch of bad decisions already. So I don't really know why they would care about their image, because if they really did, this team would not be firing a head coach after starting the season 0-5 and basically participating with Miami in the Tank Bowl this weekend. So you can choose any answer, or it can be a combination of all variables, which I'm pretty sure is the correct answer. It's a combination of all variables, but it's just very interesting, man. It's a very weird situation as well that the Washington Redskins find themselves in, because they went from a team that was like probably going to be a, you know, not a pushover, not a doormat to a lot of other teams in the NFC. They went from being not a pushover to a complete joke. And they were already kind of a joke in terms of their front office and management, because a lot of Redskins fans will tell you that they don't like their front office. They don't like the organization and the ownership, and they don't like the higher-ups, the executives and whatnot. But they did have a belief in their players, and that's because they have seen this team beat teams that they have no business beating, but yet lose to teams that have, you know, no business of really competing against the Redskins. They have had to sit through mediocrity year after year after year. Jay Gruden has a slightly below 500 record against other teams with the Redskins. I don't even know if he'll get another head coaching job. Maybe somebody brings him on as like a coordinator or an assistant or something of that line of work. I don't know about the whole head coaching thing. I don't see that one happening. So you hate it for Jay Gruden. It's not all completely his fault. I mean, when you're built a bad hand, you can only do so much with it. For your card players out there, you know what I'm talking about. But when you're dealt, when you're given this bullshit and told, hey, make it work, there's only so much you're going to be able to accomplish. There's only so much you're going to be able to get done. And yeah, maybe other guys do a better job, but honestly, how many guys could do a better job with the situation they're given, where the owner and the GM are basically, you know, looking over you? Oh, I don't want Dwayne Haskins at 15. Go fuck yourself, Jay. We're getting Dwayne Haskins at 15. What are you going to do about it? You have to coach him anyway. Deal with it. That's basically the relationship they have. Why are we trading up in the first round to get a player with a heart condition? Hey Jay, sit your little ass down. We got this. And to be honest, on paper, it looked very good. The draft looked very good, and hopefully these players will be able to have a good career and make something out of it, but it's not looking so good if we have to base it on what we've seen and not what may happen 5 years from now. It just hasn't looked good. And this is the big, like, gut punch right here when it comes to the Washington Redskins. The Dolphins may be 0-4. They may be terrible in their own right. At least they have a plan. At least they have a vision. At least they know what their end goal is. To have the number 1 pick. To accumulate multiple picks. So, yeah, the NFL world can make fun of the Miami Dolphins. At least they have a plan. What's your plan, Washington? What do you plan on doing? How do you plan on salvaging this situation? 0-5 with a head coach that just got fired and a rookie quarterback whose confidence is all messed up right now because the head coach that just got fired basically didn't believe in him, and you threw him to the wolves and he threw 3 interceptions against a shitty secondary. How would you feel right now if you're Dwayne Haskins? And by the way, Colt McCoy is being named the starting quarterback for the Washington Redskins against the Miami Dolphins. Dwayne Haskins can't even start against the fucking Dolphins. That's how much faith they have in Dwayne Haskins right now. He can't even start against the worst team in the NFL. Oh wait, you guys might be the worst team in the NFL. At least Miami has a vision. At least they have long-term thinking. At least they have an idea of what they want to do. What are you guys going to do? You have a left tackle that's holding out. You have an old running back who's basically pissed off that you benched him the first week, healthy scratch for no reason. You overpaid an in-the-box safety. Basically a poor man's Keanu Neal that you overpaid. Let's just start there. The best part of your team is your defensive line in a passing league where stopping the run really isn't that relevant of a trait. Look at teams like Green Bay and New Orleans. Neither one of their run defenses are particularly good, and yet they're 4-1. Your run defense is better than both of theirs, and you're 0-5. So how much does run defense really matter? It doesn't mean a damn thing at the end of the day. Your secondary's hot garbage. It's been hot garbage even with Josh Norman. It's been hot garbage. Your linebacking core isn't too bad, but it's not really a whole lot there either. Your offensive line is hit and miss. Hit or miss for that matter. Your running back room is actually pretty good, but you don't utilize them effectively. And unfortunately for Darius Geis, he just continues to get hurt. Your wide receiving core, you don't have an established number 1 wide receiver, and you're basically lacking depth and star power at the receiving positions. Your tight ends are a joke. Vernon Davis, no offense, it's not really your fault, but Jordan Reed can never stay healthy. I'm pretty sure if he sneezes returning from his concussion injury, he's going to have to retire if he sneezes. That's how banged up, that's how injury prone he is. He can sneeze and he'll have to retire. Jordan Sprinkle, like, where the hell did you come from? Because you're terrible. Or actually, Jeremy Sprinkle, my bad. Mr. Irrelevant. Actually, they have a player that's Mr. Irrelevant. His name is Trey Quinn. He's a wide receiver. Not too bad, but, you know, not a guy that you want starting. But overall, man, the Washington Redskins are a mess. And this is a game that I guarantee nobody will watch. Washington at Miami. I will watch it just because I feel like I just need to watch it to really determine who's the worst team in the league. This game will determine that. Not Miami and Cincinnati in like week 16. This game will determine who's the worst team in the NFL. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video on the Washington Redskins. Redskins fans, I do apologize. You do not deserve this level of mediocrity in the front office with ownership. You guys don't deserve this. And for Miami fans, at least you have a plan. That's the only positive thing I can say. I can't wait to see how your draft goes over the next 2 seasons. I hope all your picks pan out because you're going to need them to. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and peace out.